Good morning, all. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And now, I am Father Fidel, a Montfortian priest. I come from Indonesia. Now, I want to speak about uh, Mary and evangelization in Indonesia, devotion to Mary, Tuan Ma, Mater Dolorosa, as Queen of Larantukas people in Flores, Indonesia. We know that Pope Paul VI, in the Marialis Cultus number 21, called Mary as Singulis Christianis Pietatis Magistra, Maestra di Vita Spirituale, the teacher of spiritual life for every Christian. In this sense, Mary, as a mother, has an important role. Regarding the important role of Mary in the life of the Church, Mary Rubin says that the history of early mission in Africa, Asia, and America all emphasize that the central position of Mary as Mother of Christ was a key factor in attracting potential converts to Catholicism. As a global carrier of Christian meaning, Mary can probably be regarded as the most influential female figure of the early modern world. And the spread of Marian devotion always occurred in specific cultural contexts and cannot be explained without reference to historical processes and the particularities of the local environment. All these considerations provide the framework in this my presentation, which explores the Marian devotion in Larantuka, a small town on the island of Flores in the eastern Indonesian archipelago. The intention of this my presentation is not to underline the number of years through which this devotion is practiced, which is about 500 years so, but how this devotion is lived by the faithful and how they consider Mary within the history of salvation. Now let me tell you an overview of Indonesia's territory and religion, just a little bit. Indonesia is the biggest archipelago in the world. It has 5 big islands and 30 groups of minor islands. Overall, its total number of islands is 70,508. Indonesia, a transcontinental country, is situated within 2 oceans, the Pacific and the Indian Oceans, and it stretches between the continents of Asia and Oceania. And how about Catholicism in Indonesia? How about the religion in this country? Indonesia is a secular democratic country where religious freedom is applied. The majority of its population is Muslim, and it is considered to be the biggest Muslim population in the world. On the other hand, Christianity constitutes one of the minor religions in Indonesia. It has 10% only population. The Christian religion exists since the 7th century for more than 1,300 years already. And according to the writings of Shaykh Abu Salih al-Armini, a historian on ancient history, Christianity in Barus, in the island of Sumatra, was established in the mid-7th century. It is believed to be brought to by the Nestorian Church of the Syria Malabar of India. Several written sources speak about the foundation of the Catholic faith in Indonesia. Firstly, the Indonesian Episcopal Conference or Indonesian Konferensi Wali Gereja Indonesia. This writing affirms that in the 7th century in Barus, Sumatra Island, stood a church of the Holy Virgin Mary. There is also information from the study of Kurt Koch, who speaks about the arrival of Christian missionaries. He states that the Apostle Thomas, who had worked in India, sailed to Indonesia with Indian traders. Secondly, the writings of Adolf Haken states that the oldest cradle of Catholicism is located in Solor, an island of East Flores in the eastern part of Indonesia. And East Flores is the center of the diocese that covers the eastern part of the mainland district of Flores, Solor, Adonara, and Lembata. It is the oldest Catholic region in Indonesia. And Catholicism in this region was introduced in 1550 by the Portuguese Dominican missionaries. The following year, 3 Dominicans officially started the mission at Lohayong, and the mission was called Mission of Solor, or we call Misi Solor. Catholicism is one of the 6 recognized religions in Indonesia. Other recognized religions are Islam, which embraces the majority, then Protestantism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. And Indonesia is the second largest Christian population in Southeast Asia after Philippines. And it is important to take note that Portuguese arrived, colonized, and introduced the Catholic faith to this region in 16th century. Larantuka, as the capital of East Flores, was known as the center of Catholicism in the entire Flores. It has been the first Catholic center of the Dominican missionaries in 1556 during the Portuguese colonization. The Dominicans preached in this region from 1561 to 1670. Afterwards, the mission in Larantuka passed on to the Jesuits from 1864 to 1917, then to the Divine Word from 1914 onward. The presence of the missionaries in the past had helped in the development of the faith in the Diocese of Larantuka. As one of the dioceses in Indonesia and as a part of the Universal Church, the mission of evangelization that was once initiated by the missionaries continued and developed until today. Well, now I want to speak about Semana Santa or Holy Week in Larantuka, fruit of the missionary and evangelization endeavor of the Dominicans. Semana Santa or the Holy Week in Larantuka is considered to be a celebration that is deeply characterized by the local culture and religiosity. But before we enter into this aspect, it is necessary for us to know the origin of the statue Tuan Ma. And our question is, who is Tuan Ma? Tuan Ma is the name given to the mother of sorrow, Mater Dolorosa. The statue of the Tuan Ma is always brought to procession during the Holy Week. It is believed to be a miraculous origin. The existing legend myth on the aforementioned statue dates back to 1510. It strongly symbolizes Mary's presence within the community. Based on some Dutch and Portuguese writings, the statue of Tuan Ma was found around 1510 on Larantuka Beach by a boy named Resiona. While the latter was looking for snails, he saw a beautiful woman standing in front of him in silence. He asked for her name and where she came from, but she didn't answer him back. The woman wrote 3 words on the sand, but he didn't understand. After a while, when he raised his head, he saw a beautiful wooden statue. The 3 written words were, "Acula Reina Rosari," I am the Queen of Rosary. Resiona protected the written words with stones in order that it may not be erased by the tide. He then returned to the village and told them what happened. The people then went with him to the beach where they found the statue. The 3 meters high statue was brought to the village and was brought to the Congres where the tribes gathered for prayer. The local communities were not familiar with this statue because they were not yet baptized. However, they considered the statue as a sacred object and they presented their offerings to the statue during harvest time. When the Dominican missionaries came to Larantuka, the faithful showed to them the statue and the 3 words written on the littoral, "Acula Reina Rosari," I am Queen of the Rosary. One of the Dominicans who was present translated inscription and acclaimed that the statue was the mother of the God. The aforementioned legend is widely told within the community and it has circulated through centuries. And John Subantukan, the local author, he states that there are many versions of legendary stories on the origin of the statue of the Tuan Ma. He points out that legendary stories are not historical facts. And the Indonesian Jesuit priest, Father Sindunata, he says that the narrated events should be interpreted within the social and cultural context of faith. He questioned on the truthfulness of fact. First, did Mary appear to the boy Resiona on the beach of Larantuka about 500 years ago? Second, did Mary transform herself into the statue of Tuan Ma? And did the people enthrone her in the chapel? And he concludes that it is not important to seek historical truth, but to go to the core of the existing legend. That is, the door of faith was introduced to Larantuka and to several parts of the archipelago by the Blessed Virgin Mary. Faith was introduced to the people through Mary's intervention. Mary is indeed fundamental in one's journey to faith. She is the door who introduces her children to her son. Her important role in the Catholic faith is vividly underlined in southeastern islands and likewise in the faith experience of the Larantukas people. Now, I want to speak a little about the tradition of Semana Santa or Holy Week in Larantuka. Semana Santa is a Portuguese term for the Holy Week. This celebrative tradition is an inheritance coming from the Portuguese Dominicans. This intense tradition has formed part of the spiritual and social experience in Larantuka for over 500 years and is vividly celebrated until today. In 2010, Larantuka celebrated the 500 years anniversary of its Semana Santa celebration. It is a tradition where praises, thanksgiving, penance, reparation is practiced through the hands of the Tuanma. Johannes Hans Montero, in his doctoral dissertation, describes that this tradition has a profound meaning for the Catholic faith in Larantuka and in Indonesia. He underlines that the implantation and rooting of the Christian tradition on the ancient soil of that time leaves its mark to this day, especially in the Semana Santa. In the Semana Santa celebration in Larantuka, with the devotion expressed to the suffering of Christ and the sorrow of Mary, as well as to the resurrection of Christ and to the rejoiced Mary. The spiritual intensity of the Semana Santa or Holy Week is felt through the various rituals and ceremonies celebrated in the traditional Portuguese language. And according to him, the local religious characteristics of Larantuka can be resembled to that of their Portuguese missionaries. And now, let me tell you, Mary, Queen of Larantuka's people. We know that Saint Dominic is one of the saints who taught the Christians to honor Mary with the rosary. And during the mission of the Dominicans' mission in Asia, the missionaries preached the spirituality of Saint Dominic everywhere, from one country to other. His devotion was spread all over in the New World and in the Far East. And according to Angelo D'Amato, the rosary is the privileged or favorite topic of their preaching. Through the expansion of Portuguese in Africa, Asia, Latin America, the devotion to Mary was known and became a central identity of the spiritual guided by the missionaries. And the rosary was seen as an instrument to concretize this identity for the lay associations in all its land of the apostolic mission. The enthusiasm to evoke the protection of the Blessed Virgin Mary was immersed profoundly in the life of the Dominican missionaries, especially in the context that we are speaking about. Thus, in the context of their mission, it was also seen how the missionaries consecrated their life and the mission in the protection of Mary. And when we look back to the history of the kingdom of Larantuka, this kingdom is the only one kingdom in Indonesia during the period of the colonization, starting from 16th century to 17th century, who really accepted the Catholicism. The presence of the Dominican missionaries and the other missionaries who came later really gave the chance to the local king to receive the new religion. And the kingdom of Larantuka was a kingdom that wanted to work and be united to the Portuguese. Being aware of this dichotomy, it can be comprehended that the king of Larantuka finally believed and received the Catholicism. And the first king of the kingdom who accepted the Catholic faith and was baptized with new name, Don Francisco Olaadobala Diaz Veira de Godinho. In 1665, King Olaadobala, he was the initiator of the handover ceremony of the golden-headed scepter of the Mother Mary Reina Rosary. After the scepter was handed over to the Virgin Mary, Larantuka were fully the city of Mary, or we call Kota Reina, or city of Reina. Therefore, the king and its successors became the servants of the Virgin Mary. Then in 1951, in a solemn celebration after past the long history of the Christianity in Larantuka, the first bishop of Larantuka, Monsignor Gabriel Manek, SVD, entrusted the diocese to the hands of Mary. As a true lover of the Virgin Mary, Queen of the Rosary, the bishop consecrated the city of Larantuka and the diocese into the hands of Mary at the feast of the Nativity of Mary, 8 September 1954, during a solemn celebration. The bishop saw and stressed how important Mary was for the local people, for the laity, the priests, and the religious. Through the prayer to Mary, the bishop was asking particularly the spiritual guidance of Mother Mary as the Queen of the Rosary, or Reina Rosary, to accompany their life, difficulties, and the new hope in the abundant life with Jesus, her Son. And conclusion, Tuan Ma, a figure of faith who accompanies the faithful in Larantuka. When we look back to the work of the missionaries, on the one hand, it seems that missionaries are the ones who starting and introducing the faith of Christ that is then accepted and lived by the local people, integrate it into their cultural context and daily life. On the other hand, spiritually, there is another figure who plays a very important role in animating the fire of faith, or borrowing the language of Monsignor Franz Koponkung, who paraphrased opened the door of faith in his homily at the time of the 500th anniversary of Tuan Ma in Larantuka. The figure is Mary, and she was the first person who opened the door of faith in Larantuka and southeastern islands. The Bishop Franz Koponkung, he says, before the missionaries came, Our Lady of Mary had been here. She opened the way, who made her footprints in Larantuka 5 centuries ago. From this, the door was opened and the faith was started. Thus, Mary is the door of faith and the door for all the people in the region. Mary, in this context, is the door for the Catholicism in this region, was started and lived passionately. Consequently, the local people also is invited to honor Mary as a mother who didn't only bring the faith, but also presented who Jesus Christ is for their lives and their salvation, because all her is united to the mystery of Jesus Christ, her Son. And for the Larantukas people, Mary represents them. They find their identity in her. She is a mother who shows her protection and closeness to the people, and for this reason they call her Tuan Ma. Tuan Ma, Tuan is Lord and Ma is mother, so mother of God, mother of the Lord. And as we may recall, we have noted that in Larantuka, people have two names and two types of devotional practices toward Mary: the devotion to Tuan Ma and that to the Reina Rosary, Queen of Mary. These devotions are not different because the subject is always Mary. However, for the local people, the term Tuan Ma sounds more sweet and affectionate. This is a term that is very close to the faithful, whereas Reina or Queen is more of a cold, majestic title. The faithful's experience of Mary's love and tenderness is expressed through their devotion to the Tuan Ma. In Larantuka, we cannot count the numerous healing, conversion, or graces of joy received after having visited and prayed to Mary Tuan Ma. Maybe this phenomenon can be equal with the pilgrims who prayed in Fatima, Lourdes, etc., and had the mercy of God through the Blessed Virgin Mary. In this unique celebration, the pastors and those working in the pastoral fields have the duty to unfold the spiritual richness of this event and to guide them towards a deeper commitment in faith. Thank you very much. That's all that I can present to you, Mary and Evangelization in Indonesia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Father Fidelis. That's here again. What I find so fascinating is that actually Mary preceded any missionary. That she was the initiator, which is fantastic. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we have about